You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast, Season 6, Episode 240.
Expedition Bigfoot, Secret Societies, and Where Can I Join the Forces of Evil?
That's right. So here we are again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. And if this is your very first time here, welcome. Make sure to take your shoes off at the door, please. Because it's that time of year, springtime. Things are muddy and snowy. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And, this is the CreepGeeks Podcast. And we're going to talk about stuff we hope you think is interesting.
Okay.
And if you do, give us a thumbs up and 5 stars. Like Uber, right?
5 stars.
5 stars.
Yes.
Okay, so in this particular episode, we have a couple different things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Expedition Bigfoot, secret societies, and the possibility of where you can join the forces of evil.
Oh.
That's right. And so we fully expect this podcast to last about 45 minutes, which really means about an hour or so, because that's the way it ends up being, but that's okay. We do this periodically. And if you have anything to contribute and you'd like to talk to us and let us know what's going on in your neck of the paranormal woods, we have a phone number for you. It's toll free.
And that phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
That's right. And since we're an offbeat news podcast and we explore paranormal, cryptid, and supernatural stuff and other weirdly news that's on the internets and out and about, chances are we'll talk about some stuff that you might find to be interesting.
Yeah.
And if you do, 5 stars. Keep doing the Uber thing, right? No, it's all good. We're going to roll into it. Okay, so here's the deal. Normally, when we do the podcast, we tell you about what we're going to have for dinner when we get done doing the podcast, because that's important to me.
Okay.
What, dinner? I enjoy dinners.
Yes.
Yes, I'm proficient at it. I've been eating dinners for over 50 years. That's right. Take that. Okay, so I think what we're going to have this particular go around is some delicious rotary chicken.
Rotisserie.
That's what it said, rotisserie chickens. And some salad.
Yes.
That's right.
As well as some stuff from the Olive Bar, because I love the Olive Bar.
And some French breads.
Yeah.
Some baguettes. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Last time we did the podcast, or we were going to do the podcast, we were thinking that we were going to do a wonderful chicken salad and some peasant bread.
Yes.
But then we didn't do the podcast, but we did have the chicken salad and the peasant bread. And it was delicioso. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to talk about some stuff that we think to be interesting, right? And one of the things that we think are interesting is that being as it's springtime and the shows are coming back on television about paranormal stuff and Bigfoot stuff and ghost stuff and UFO stuff. One of the shows that we watch, for 2 different reasons. We watch it because we're interested in the subject matter and what they're going to do next, and to slightly make fun of the people in the show. It's true, though. We all do it.
Okay.
Right? So this particular show is called Expedition Bigfoot.
Yes.
And Expedition Bigfoot is kind of one of these shows. So you have Finding Bigfoot and you have Expedition Bigfoot. Finding Bigfoot has its own crew, and they kind of go out there and do their investigations. Expedition Bigfoot is no different. They go out there and do their investigations as well. One is supposed to be more scientifically minded than the other, but at the end of the day, they're searching for Sasquatch/Bigfoot.
Yes.
So really, how scientific can you be when you can't prove the existence? And that's the entire goal, is to capture some kind of footage or prove the existence, right?
Yeah.
Well, in this particular episode, because they just started a new season, they broke out something I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
It was a big old drone that you would use for crop dusting, because that's the cool hotness now if you're an agricultural kind of person. Instead of using a plane to crop dust, you can use a drone. And I guess this is the thing where people get hired to go out there and they fire up their big old drones and they take GPS and they plot the farm.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is they're going to cover. They fill up, this big gallon milk jug looking thing at the bottom of it. And then it flies this predetermined route that you set, and it sprays pesticides or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Genius. Well, these guys in Expedition Bigfoot went out and kind of did the same thing. Except they filled it with primate pheromone.
Yes.
Now, what's funny about this is when I seen this, I'm thinking, where have I heard of this before? Right? And I remember it in mention being talked to, and I don't remember exactly where the details were of where I've heard it or I heard it mentioned. It could have been at CryptidCon. I don't know if it was we were talking to Seth Breedlove. I don't remember where we heard.
It was Alexander Petikoff.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know where I'd heard it from because I heard it in conversation, and I'm not sure.
Well, I know if you walked over to his booth and talked about it, because like I believe him and Seth were talking a lot about drones, and so was somebody else there. I'm trying to remember who that person was.
At CryptidCon.
At CryptidCon.
Okay.
And the more they talked about drones, they basically, was it Eli wasn't there, was he? Yeah. CryptidCon was a blur for me because we were so busy. But Alex did the same experiment like back in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying around.
Where was it? It was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't know, but it makes for terrible podcast when we don't remember, but that's okay. It wasn't Chestnut Ridge. I don't know.
No, it was Mount Hood.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And so we learned about this in the fall of 2021, and I believe he attempted this stuff when he was out towards Oregon, but if you follow them on their YouTube, last time I thought they were in Oregon was like in July.
I don't know. It may have been.
Yeah, but it was like because it's their version or they're on the Trail of series, with the collaborations with everybody else that we all like in the cryptozoology world.
Yeah.
So
/ small town monster community world.
Yeah, and if you are hip on social media or you are plugged into the paranormal and cryptid community online, this isn't a new thing. The whole dropping of pheromones, not just for Bigfoot or cryptids, but in science in general. I mean, because it's a way to lure wildlife, which unfortunately...
poachers do it too.
I mean,
but this is the first time I think that I've seen it on television, like being purposely used to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, and we're going to do something groundbreaking. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there going, I think this has been done before.
Yeah.
This is like when, anyway, so they did that, which I thought that was pretty interesting. And they flew around, and they all got staged up and in their little perspective areas there. And you've got, the team, and I'm trying to remember the names of the people on the team.
Ronnie, Russell Ford,
Russell,
my God, Maria.
Yeah, Maria.
Yeah.
Are we missing somebody?
Eric?
Now you're just making stuff up like I am. I don't remember.
Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, let's just say Bryce. So.
And it's a show that I watch, because, we talk about paranormal and Bigfoot stuff and UFO stuff and all that. So, of course, I'm going to tune in to see what's going on and ghosty stuff as well. And they flew around and, they used the thermals and all that sort of thing. And I'm thinking this is pretty interesting. But before they did all that in the same show, they were kind of rehashing the previous season's evidence that they had. They had to leave from an area that they were in where they were getting productive results because of a fire.
Yeah.
Big old brush fire thing. And so they came back, to finish what they started because they were getting really productive results because they had left Kentucky after they talked to some Kentucky dudes. And we know some Kentucky dudes.
Yeah.
We do Bigfoot stuff, right? So, anyway, so they came back, but they had an interview portion where, I hate that word portion.
Yeah.
I just can't stand. To me, it's like people's moist.
Interview segment.
Yeah.
There you go.
And they did it with Dr. Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
Now, Jane Goodall has been around for a long time. I'm 52. She's way older than I am, but she's, for me, is the first female scientist that I've ever been able to pay attention to. And the only reason for that was National Geographic, man. She was in there, you know, and she studied primates, and it had these amazing pictures of her, you know, chilling with these big ass silverback gorillas.
Yeah.
And other primates, you know. And I completely respect what she's doing, but I mean, she's the only one that I ever really knew, right? And it was because of National Geographic and the amazing, you know, photos and stuff, because that's one of the things that made me want to be a photographer at one time. You know, everybody's seen that, you know, historic picture of the guy taking a picture of a crocodile eye, and he's in the swamp with the lens like 2 inches away, all covered in water and stuff to get that picture. And I'm thinking, you know, when I was younger, I'm like, man, that's amazing. Now that I'm older and know photography and worked in that industry for a while, I'd be like, get out of the swamp. You are wrecking your camera gear, you know? But those guys don't care.
I still want to do it.
Like, get in the swamp and wreck a camera?
Get that shot.
I will too. I will zoom and get it. I mean, I totally understand it. You know? So, okay, so I thought it was pretty interesting. Dr. Jane Goodall was asked about Bigfoot, and she said that there was a place that she had went, and she had asked, and these people were very remote, small villages that are really remote throughout the jungle, and normally they had, you know, hunters that hunt their way across the territory, you know, and they would talk, and they became like the sort of the telephone for these little villages. Mm-hmm. So they'd hunt, show up in a village, give them the, you know, the comings and goings, you know, all that kind of stuff, to give them the news, move on to the next, and keep going, and come back again, you know, spreading, you know, news and probably gossip and good stuff like that. But she asked the hunters, or one of the hunters, to ask the villages if they've ever seen a monkey, right? Mm-hmm. A monkey with no tail that walks upright. And so she asked them to ask.
Yeah.
And then later on, she got a response, and they were like, you know, the hunter, you know, they had found out, yeah, all the time.
Wow.
And they even described it in a way that wasn't prompted by Dr. Jane Goodall, you know, to lead you to think that this was like a Sasquatch type, you know, a bipedal, you know, primate.
And see, that's
you know, a stand-up hominid kind of thing, you know, like a large, you know, like a primate, man. Yeah.
I like how you added that, how, you know, description without prompting.
Well, she said that.
Yeah.
And she was like, and they told me unprompted.
Because you don't see that. Like, we were watching some recent paranormal show recently.
It's like yeah. Did you see something in the woods? I did. Was it hairy? Was it tall? Did it have 2 yellow eyes at night, or were they red? You know, just like totally feeding people. Yeah,
it's that new ghost show that we were watching where he was like, did it say demon? Did you hear it say demon? And
you're like, I do now. Like, right?
Because it was like an EVP.
What show was that?
It's the Ghost Town.
Oh, yeah. I should have put that in the podcast.
Yeah,
that looks to be pretty interesting, sort of.
Yeah. But that was my one critique on that, was like, he kind of, EVPs, yes, we have our own interpretation of EVPs, and that's the thing. What one person hears could be what somebody else hears. But your, how you decipher the EVP is greatly influenced by what's in your brain before you hear it.
Yeah.
So if this dude walks up, hey, this says spaghetti, you're going to go, all right, it says spaghetti.
And then I'm going to eat spaghetti.
Yeah. And then the EVP says spaghetti.
Yeah.
But if he hadn't said that, it may have said, ghosts are real. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that Ghost Town show.
Yeah.
Ghost of Ghost Town, or whatever it's called.
But see, that's the thing about this Expedition Bigfoot, to go back to this, is like, I really appreciate the opportunity that they took when grabbing Jane Goodall. But there were other elements where I'm like, I've kind of seen this before.
Oh, yeah. And you're going to, you know.
At this point, if this is supposed to be the more scientific version of all the other cryptid and Bigfoot shows out there, why aren't there some other decisions that are made that would be more like observational science? Like, okay, they had to flee because there was a wildfire. Okay, well, near the perimeter or right near the outermost sections of where it's been, you know, evacuated, set up some trail cameras since you can't physically be there. You know, that type of stuff.
I mean, yeah, I get it. But at the same time, if we were personally in that situation and we had to haul ass because of a wildfire,
Yeah.
we're not stopping and setting up cameras. We're going to go.
But we have a trail camera set up on our property already, and it's got fresh batteries in it. So if we were to evacuate right now and come back in 2 weeks, at least we have a few pictures up in our field if Bigfoot decided to walk past it.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, but look, whatever. You can nitpick it all you want. Because I understand they're also filming a show, and it's time-driven and production-based and all of that sort of thing. They don't live out there where they can just set something up and hang out there and live for 6 months. Like Dr. Jane Goodall, she lived with primates. Mm-hmm. She, went out there and lived with them. And they're not doing that. And I totally understand that, and they have families and all that sort of thing. So, in other words, you get what you get. And the way they set up to do what they're going to do as far as their investigation and research is it's all done based around what they can do in the situation they're in. If they only have 5 days to be there, and they're going to do it that way. You can't set it all up and do a full blown, we're looking for Bigfoot and bring in millions of dollars of equipment and be gone in 5 days because they don't have a budget. Everybody thinks, ooh, it's Discovery. Mm-hmm. That's great. It's like Discovery Plus. They don't got a big budget.
Okay.
And they set them up in the past with like cameras and stuff like that. But anyway, I think we're giving them too much credence right now. But they do show, and some of the teaser or the sizzling, we call them sizzler clips, like sizzle reels, like come back and see when they show like a thermal figure, like, dashing between one tree to the other, like, is that a Bigfoot kind of a thing to lure you in?
There was that one part where he was basically camping or sleeping under like the brush or whatever. That kind of got a little spooky for me. I was like, ooh, because even if it wasn't Bigfoot or whatever, it's it's a huge predator or something.
Yeah, I mean that's Russell, man. That guy hikes out like 4 miles pretty much by himself in a camera guy. And I don't. And what if it's a bear?
Yeah,
they're in bear country, right? I mean, I'd be honestly, you're definitely more likely to see a bear than you are probably to see a Bigfoot, and there's a likelihood that you might have to interact with them, especially if the time of year is that they're hungry.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I thought it was pretty interesting that they used the pheromone stuff, and they talked to Dr. Jane Goodall. I mean, I just thought that was pretty neat. Give them a little cred, I guess.
And I put a link to Petakov's Instagram where he shows a video for where they did the pheromone experiment as well. So
and it's funny because the Expedition Bigfoot guys probably spent like $5,000-$6,000 having that guy fly around for a minute.
Yeah,
blew all their budget on that kind of stuff, and Petakov's up there with like less than that.
They are filmmakers, so
yeah. But I mean, I would totally do it the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring somebody in to do it. I'm going to fire up my Mavic or whatever it is and let it ride.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was pretty neat. So, okay. Now, here is some random weird news. It seems kind of apropos with all the weather and the way things have been. And this is something that I thought about. You're in a tornado warning situation and you're doing like a ghost tour.
Oh, gosh.
What happens then?
Well, okay, so it would have to be situational. Like, what kind of ghost tour? Are you outside? Are you inside?
Tornadoes have a way to make outside and inside the same.
Are you like deep in like the catacombs of France or something like that? I'd feel safe. I'd be like, but I can't imagine.
Well, I mean, it would be like the same if you're on any tour, but I don't know, you're on a ghost tour. I was thinking about all the energy involved,
Would you get better results?
Or would you be able to distinguish between the results of extra energy from a nature, torrent sort of like ghost?
That would be the perfect situation for any like dad level skeptic, because he could just start shouting for everything. It's the wind.
Yeah. It's like, hey. All right. I'm getting off the internet because I can't load any of my links because we have satellite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we're on the list for Starlink too. Been on there, been waiting patiently for coming up on 2 years now. And it's like, man, they already raised their rates. We ain't even got it yet. It's like, come on, man. You got people out there that have like blazing fast internet to begin with. And they're like, well, I'm going to go ahead and cancel my order. Cause I'm like, yeah, it's like, come on, man. You already have the chocolate donut with sprinkles on it. Yeah. Okay, so these guys were on a tour, right? Mm-hmm. And they're at Waverly Hills in the sanatorium there.
Okay.
And, that place is just creepy as it is anyway. So the tour was cut short when a tornado formed in the area and the siren went off.
Oh.
Because that's bad news when the sirens go off.
Yeah.
So in response, the guides ushered the ghost hunters into a sizable tunnel, which is in the building that's once used to basically the chute, right? That tunnel that's used to transport the corpses.
Oh, that we seen on that one ghost show with the young kids?
Like 5 ghost shows done. Yeah.
Yeah, but the young kids where they locked one of them down there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Zach Baggins was there. Anyway, it's the corpse chute, right? Because of, transporting bodies and all that stuff, it just made it easier to put them through the chute, right?
Yeah.
So tornadoes coming, sirens are off or running off, and they got them locked in this chute because it's a safe place. It's a tunnel. It's surrounded by cement. It's probably one of the safest places you could be.
Yeah.
It's also supposed to be one of the most haunted places at Waverly. So, the guides put them all in the ghost hunters into the sizable tunnel. And it says, historians say that over the course of 5 decades, the tuberculosis patients, am I saying that right? Were treated at the site, and it had like 20 to 60,000 people pass away there. And, they mostly passed through what they call the body chute.
Ugh.
Yeah. So basically in a post on social media, Waverly Hills Sanatorium made note of the eerie event and, thanked that, their Friday evening guests for cooperation and understanding. And in response, a number of people understandably mused that they'd rather be, taking their chances in a tornado than be locked in that body chute.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
So the storm passed and they were able to resume their tour. But that would be something if, you get some, because I haven't seen anything come out from that. Like, we got locked in the body chute because of a tornado and it was haunted as hell, man. All the weird stuff happening, noises and people getting grabbed. And
could you imagine the TripAdvisor or review for that? Like,
went
to look for ghosts.
Waverly got locked in the body chute during a tornado.
Got locked in the tuberculosis tunnel.
Yeah. The body chute.
Yeah. That's not cool.
Yeah. But I thought it was kind of fun. I was like, oh, that'd suck. Yeah. Yeah. So this is something I thought was pretty interesting, and I had to add a link to it. Do you see it?
No.
So we've in the past talked about Space Command and Space Force and all this stuff and technology being the way it is and, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs, and how much of that may or may not be military. We actually even made mention to the idea that, our Space Command / Space Force, created by our former president, Donald Trump, was there to basically build up because of China building up their Space Force. And Russia jumping in on that. And so the need to militarize space has evidently become a need.
Yeah.
And the idea that, smashing satellites and trying to protect your assets in space has become a concern. And that, that's why our Space Force was created. And, so if that's the case, that Donald Trump and the threats from China and all that stuff is actually a real thing, then it makes sense that Australia launches their own space command to counter China's extraterrestrial military ambitions.
I don't know.
Now, they threw extraterrestrial military ambitions in there, to kind of give it some zing. But this is from the South China Morning Post.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird thing, right?
Yeah.
So the security arm of this new Space Force is going to be led by Air Vice Marshal Kath Roberts, who will oversee a team drawn from basically all of Australia's Army, their military services, Army, Navy, Air Force. And they're going to start their own because, combat and contested happenings in space has been a thing to a certain degree. It will be a thing, and it's going to be common. It is more of a thing coming into, our recent future coming up. This is a thing.
Yeah.
We've got countries blowing up satellites with their own kinetic weapon to try to cause problems, like Russia did. and it kind of caused some problems for Starlink. They've done it in the past. China launched a missile into space and knocked out a satellite from the ground. Mm-hmm. We launched a satellite. I mean, we launched the missile from a ship, just a random old ship in the middle of the universe. What do you call it? Ocean. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And knocked out a satellite, and it's sort of been escalating from there. I've talked to somebody who was in the Air Force, who was a satellite operator kind of guy, tracks the satellites and stuff, and he told me that every satellite up there has a shadow. And knowing whose shadow is there is the hard part.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean by shadow? And he's like, got a shadow, man. So that's all I can tell you.
Wow. I don't know.
Killer satellites, maybe. Oh. Small, munitions armed satellites that can blow up another satellite or smash into it and knock it off, kill the communications, that kind of thing. I mean, it completely makes sense. Scary because, hey.
Looking at
Cold War ain't dead.
The Kath Roberts defense person, and I'm like, wow. She's like in front of a fighter jet and all this other stuff. So I guess she's got the background, and she's a self-professed sci-fi nerd. So
good.
Yeah.
And, this circles back to the Space Force series. It's a documentary series on Netflix.
Okay.
With Steve Carell from The Office. Mm-hmm. They brought back for another season.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about it?
It's good. Okay. I liked it. We watched it.
Yeah.
Parts of it. It all circles back, man. You got Space Force going on.
Okay.
Are you even?
I'm trying to make the connection to this announcement from Australia.
Space Force?
Yes.
U.S. Space Force. Australia has a Space Force. China's got a Space Force going on. Russia's got their Space Force going on, right? And on Netflix, we have a Space Force show that we can watch. It's a comedy series.
Okay.
Oh, my God. You're like, yeah, all right.
Okay. I feel that Australia, as far as like the wildlife is intense, the venomous and dangerous animals are intense. The people seem to be laid back for the most part.
Well, they are.
So,
but they're also pretty fierce warfighters as well.
Okay. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
So
this makes sense. And they're in close proximity to Japan.
Now,
and all
that's
that
the part that makes sense, because if you do listen to some Australian podcasts, they do talk about, and it's been within the past 2 years or so, a lot of rising tension between Australia and China. Australia was one of the first countries to lock themselves down and basically say, during the pandemic, no, thank you. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's...
But before that, they had already had like growing tensions with immigration and just relations in that particular area.
But I think this, using Australia, as an example for the Space Force thing, it's people laugh about it and think that, why are we doing all this? Right?
Yeah.
But, space is becoming more congested. It's already contested. And the boundaries between, competition and conflict become increasingly blurred by gray zone activities.
So are people looking at space travel as gray zoned activity?
No, gray zone activity is you're knocking just a random satellite out of the sky with one of your land-based missiles with complete disregard
and see that
to other satellites and other bodies out there. So when Russia did that, they launched up and they blew up this satellite, or they basically, destroyed the satellite. Yeah. And it created such an issue in low orbit. Satellites had to move. Satellites were destroyed for like Elon Musk, shrapnel, all that stuff out there.
How is that considered gray zone? Because even
if it's a gray zone that, you can launch a missile in space and do that to your own satellite with basically wanton disregard to other pieces of space equipment up there, and who's going to basically tell you to stop?
It interferes with traffic. There's consequences, or scientific.
It's a gray zone because if you did it on Earth, then that could be considered an act of war, and you probably don't want to do that and cause sanctions and all that stuff. In space, what are they going to do?
And see, I don't see it. What are you going to do? I see it as you're causing a potential hazard. But you're
missing. You asked what a gray zone activity is. That's a gray zone activity. They can do this with no consequence.
And I'm just astounded that that's considered gray
It's because
zone.
they don't give a shit. A gray zone activity is basically one of those things where who's to stop them if they wanted to do something like this? Who's to stop them from knocking your satellites out of orbit? Who's to stop them? It's a gray area. Like, who owns space? Do the rules apply in space?
They should, considering your property or your scientific experiment or your technology. If any of those three things are hurt or damaged or destroyed, then the other party is responsible, whether you're a civilian or you're representing a country.
If you both agree to it. If you've got another, if I don't agree to it, and like, well, I don't see it that way. What are you going to do?
But that's a slippery slope right there.
Of course it is. You're basically telling us that, and yes, everybody agrees. So, you saying this is you're proving the point of why we need Space Force.
I can't believe that's considered. I mean, that's common sense.
Yeah, but that's common sense. As if you're okay, so you're a country that wants to launch a missile into space.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just going to launch a missile into space. Do I got to ask everybody's permission to launch a missile in space?
You should.
You should, but why? You don't own space.
That's arrogant.
That's what's happening. That's why we're doing this. That's why Trump created this Space Force, to protect our interest in space, to be able to aggressively protect our interest in space. You know why he did that? Because of stuff like this, with China doing their own thing, Russia doing their own thing. Other countries are just going to be able to do their own thing too. Nobody seems to care about the results.
This
Because it's space. You can't tell me what to do in space. That's the way they're looking at it.
This is why millennials wear T-shirts that say, be a decent human. Because I wouldn't, if I were a country, I wouldn't do that. I would check and make sure.
Yeah, if you're trying to be a good, but that's not the, okay, if that's great. And that's, I don't want to say it's okay. That's great if everybody plays by the rules, but nobody plays by the rules. Let me invade a country. You going to stop me?
As we've seen in the past 2 months, no.
So, I mean, yeah, it's that kind of thing in space, but it's more different. Like, hey, who's to say, should we be putting nuclear batteries in satellites so they can last 100 years or 1,000 years at the most in satellites and put them in space? That's a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of these satellites has a nuclear battery in it. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there should be rules and regulations and stuff, and that's great if you want to play along. But if I was the U.S., right, and I want to put a communication satellite up in space, and Russia said, no, you can't do that, I would show them the biggest middle finger and stick it up there anyway, as we have all done for the past since the space race was created.
Which also...
Space is the Wild West, man.
The space race. There was a line in this article that talks about, space being congested and already contested. And when I read that last part, the first thing I thought about was in the 80s and early 90s, there was that discussion like who owns space and who owns the moon. And for a while there, it was in the news cycles that China was like, oh, the moon's going to be ours. And
yeah, because they're thinking they're going to get up there and put a flag to it.
Yeah.
And and basically the way they're looking at it is whoever has a permanent or semi-permanent establishment on the moon owns the moon. So I got news for you. The Nazis that are already there, because we've seen the shows, like, they're going to own it. And then, and there's a show on Apple Television, which I've still yet to actually watch one episode of, is that it actually goes and shows the space launch or the space program as it started, but with a different twist. That the U.S. was not the first on the moon, that the Soviets or the Russians were the first on the moon. And that secret bases were there, and there's a secret war being fought on the moon for the moon. So the idea that now Australia is getting a space force. So if Australia's getting one, England already has one. The U.S. has one. China and Russia, they definitely have space force of some kind.
Australia is like the tipping point as to where we should start being concerned.
No, we should have been concerned as soon as, we started seeing stuff. But it's never been brought to the attention. It only became something that got attention when it was ridiculed that, a president was creating another branch of the military called Space Force, which I think used to be part of Space Command, because Space Command went away and it became Space Force. It's a needed thing.
Imagine if Canada or like Switzerland, I'm just pulling the two most neutral countries I could think of.
Canada's definitely not neutral.
Yeah.
It'd be like Switzerland and Belgium. And honestly, I'm probably going to catch some hate for that. What do they even do? Well, everybody says those countries are better for everybody, but they're like the size of our states. I mean, we're talking about the
Switzerland's neutral, so I mean, that's...
well, they were. They're not neutral now.
Really?
Yeah, they're supporting Ukraine. They're like, nope.
Oh, okay.
This is something we've had a conversation about.
I
and you were like, "That's great, honey," and went back to looking
I just didn't
your
realize
phone.
that supporting Ukraine, and I mean that would tip them as to completely no longer being considered a neutral country.
Well, the thing about Switzerland being the way it is being surrounded by all these other aggravating countries that have been, hey, we're staying out of it. But if the scale tips and you've got if all of them are aggravating, I mean, I get why they're doing it, but, this is a thing that's been frowned upon with this whole Ukraine thing. And sure, nobody's innocent with anything. Nobody ever is, but this is seems a little weird. This whole situation. I don't know, but, this is serious business with the whole space thing.
Yeah.
And so they're starting their space command, which is like their Space Force. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's going to get even worse. And next thing you know, it's going to be like The Expanse. If you ever watch that television show. Great show, by the way. You should watch all 5 seasons. You can read the books, but why? Just watch the show. It's so much better than you can imagine as far as the visuals on it. So, yeah, it'd be pretty scary to be in a tornado and on a ghost investigation in a body shoot. Kind of scary that Australia now has a Space Force, which means that other countries are going to be joining suit here before too long. Kind of crazy. But I do like this next article where Margaret Thatcher, she used to be the Prime Minister of England. Mm-hmm. The old Iron Lady. Right? She once planned to hunt the Loch Ness Monster with trained dolphins.
That's awesome.
That is kind of awesome. I was like, all right. And that's some 1960s stuff. Because think about when this actually happened, right? When the idea of this was coming into play, is like we're full on in the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
And it's always been one of those things where like the United States is using trained dolphins to hunt down and hunt out nuclear, Soviet nuclear submarines. Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Margaret Thatcher, she planned to hunt the Loch Ness Monster with trained dolphins.
Okay.
And I thought that was kind of interesting because there's a picture that basically shows Margaret Thatcher and Jimmy Carter sitting there together. And it's like basically a few days after she was elected to office in 1979, right? She ordered the Environmental Department civil servant, David Weymouth, to send a letter to Stuart Walker at the Scottish Home and Health Department about renting or borrowing some trained dolphins from the U.S. Navy, right?
Yeah.
To basically hunt down the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh.
And so some of those people that knew, right, animal rights activists and stuff like that, they objected to using the dolphins for such a non-dolphin purpose. And Nessie fans feared that this might lead to capturing the monster and possibly killing it.
But
the new Thatcher government clearly saw the potential for starting off with a cryptid bang and giving Scotland and the UK a much-needed tourism boost.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to set aside...
You can only use the dolphins for dolphins.
...salinity and temperature and environmental conditions to point out dolphins love, hunt and seek.
Yeah.
In fact, when they're in captivity, they have to play games with them that are basically hunt and seek.
Well, yeah, because that's how they're always hunting food.
Yeah. So to say that they can only do dolphin activities...
Well, that's what they want them to only be used to do dolphin activities.
Do they realize dolphins will sometimes play volleyball with baby seals? It's...
Well,
yeah, I mean, they're prey.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're kind of jerks sometimes. I mean,
well, so are killer whales too. But,
yeah.
I think the idea is that they didn't want the dolphins to be used for anything other than peaceful sort of naturalistic research. And they probably didn't like the idea, of Flipper, the dolphin, cruising up to a Soviet submarine with a landmine or with an underwater mine strapped to its head. Trying to blow a submarine up and stuff like, So, I mean, I get where it's coming from. It could be, and definitely would be inhumane.
Yeah.
To, blow a dolphin up to blow up a submarine. But, hey, if that submarine's full of weapons, nuclear missiles, it's about to blow up and take out half of the eastern seaboard. I love you, Flipper. But, thanks, man. Give you a medal later, right? But, I know it sounds heartless, but hey, man, war. And see, that's the thing, too, about war, right? War is freaking war.
Yeah.
And everybody tries to be nice about it. And the whole idea of not taking out civilians and all that stuff. And it's just, there's no good way to go about war. War sucks. It's just not good. It never is. Even if it's cyber, whatever, man, it's terrible. There's going to be loss of everything.
I'm still stuck on aggressive dolphins hunting Loch Ness monster. So the thing that deterred them was not the health and welfare of the dolphins. It was people's reaction to putting in dolphins.
Look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong because it's wrong, right? But there's a lot of people out there that look at animals and some animals in general as tools.
Yeah.
And they treat them like tools.
Yes.
Not every animal is your pet.
They could be.
Well, I mean, if you look at 1979, if you were to walk around treating your dog like it's your kid, people would think you're nuts. Like, it's a freaking dog. It was sad for old Yeller and all, but, I mean, come on. It's different these days.
Pepper, what a time to be alive.
Pepper could give a single crap. Look at her. So she doesn't care. She's in her broadcasting chair with her back to us.
She has no idea we're having rotisserie chicken for dinner.
And she also doesn't know if ghosts have lifespans or not.
Really?
Yep.
That would make sense, though.
Well, I mean, you have to read the article, right?
Yeah.
How long does a ghost actually last?
I would think that goes into that whole. It depends on your viewpoint or what you think ghosts are. Like, if it's like stone tape theory or residual energy, I mean, both of those have a dissipation factor. Like if a tape continues to play, like a cassette tape, you play it like 3,000 times. Eventually, it's not as strong and the information goes away. So if we were thinking that, then however long the energy takes to dissipate would be my answer.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Now, this guy who's a doctor of what I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Paul Lee of Norfolk, England, he researches the paranormal. That's what he says, right? Yeah. Noticed a recent drop in activity in major hotspots across the United Kingdom, and he naturally wanted to know what was causing it. His conclusion, many of the ghosts may be dying or getting as close as ghosts can, and he explained the spirit supplies of energy may actually deplete over time, making it impossible for them to remanifest.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's all about energy and just kind of makes you wonder if, like, for example, COVID and people being quarantined really sort of zapped the energy.
Or did things like COVID and modern ease of accessing information build up energy when it came to other types of phenomenon, like tulpas and stuff like that? Or I hate to say it, like the no sleep, what do you call those? Like Slender Man. What do you call those?
Tulpas?
Creepypastas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if enough belief is put into those that can cause them to manifest, would the ignoring or lack of interaction cause these ghosts he's talking about to dissipate?
Maybe. I just think
sense.
if there's no energy, it's eventually going to go out.
I mean, we talk about Helen's Bridge in Asheville and how we have the feeling that might be tulpa or energy manifested.
Yeah, at least now.
Well, we haven't had any recent stories. I mean, the past year.
No.
Year and a half. So, yeah.
I think we're probably going to go out there before too long and set up the van to where we can just record. Because we have 6 cameras on the roof of the van. And the way Helen's Bridge is, we can pull off to the side and you can see Helen's Bridge.
Yeah.
And if I can pull off to the side far enough without rolling off the side of the little mountain there, we can have 3 cameras going and record it using, the infrared type stuff and see what happens.
I want to do the same for...
But the only thing is that, one of the things that they say about it, Helen's Bridge, if you go and you have an experience, you will experience car trouble.
Yeah.
And when we went a long time ago, one of the times that we went with, I think Daniel actually had car trouble.
Yes, he did.
We did not.
Yeah.
We cranked the key on our relatively new van at that time and rolled away. He had a little bit of an issue. Eventually got going. I don't remember what the deal was, but it didn't want to start. Yeah. And I'd like to go out there and use the EVP and also use, different meters to record energy values out there.
Yeah.
So now it could also be that people have experienced car trouble there because you have to climb, your car has to go up a crazy hill to get there.
Yeah. And
like switchbacks and stuff. I mean, it's not really long, but it's just kind of a hard way to get up there.
Yeah.
So in other words, maybe people's cars are pieces of crap.
Which is likely. So
it's possible. Yeah. All right. So, hey, secret societies and joining the forces of evil. If that's something you're interested in, you should tune in.
Yeah.
To this next part because we're going to get ready to wrap it up here after we talk about secret societies.
And if you're not sure what a secret society is, it is our 14 term of the day, which we've added to the show notes at the top. We always talk about the 14 term of the day. We've provided a definition of secret society from Wikipedia.
Yeah. And everything we talk about is in the show notes and the links. And if you go to CreepGeeks.com, you can basically click away. And follow them if you want. 5-star. Okay, so we're on a website. And I don't want to say what it is just yet because I think it's a pretty interesting website, and I haven't had a chance to go through it. So it's a valuable resource, or it could be. But they have a list with secret societies, and you can click on the list name. You can click on who's in the name for more information about the secret society. For example, you may or may not have ever heard of the Bilderberg Group, right?
Okay.
Freemasons.
Yeah.
Illuminati, Knights of Columbus. They have a bunch in there. Rosicrucians, right? Have you ever heard of the Modern Woodmen of America?
I have not.
What about Oddfellows?
Yes. And
Order of Owls.
I want to join the Oddfellows. So, yeah.
Nope. You get no tax benefit.
Anyways.
So.
But it is a secret society. You can easily join and say, I am a member of a secret society.
What about the Red Men?
No.
Order of Skull and Bones.
Yes.
We don't have enough money.
True.
We definitely don't have enough money. So anyway, we figured we would take a second to talk about a couple of these. Maybe some of these you don't know. But I'm going to say if you are looking to join the forces of evil, and this is completely unresearched and unproven, these are the groups that you would probably need to join and make friends with.
Not all of these are evil, though.
Bilderberg Group.
Yes.
That's evil. Mm-hmm. Probably got to join that one in order to get your foot in the door to join the forces of evil.
Yes, but...
like the Illuminati. Right?
Are Freemasons evil?
We don't even
They're
know.
on this list, so not everything on this list.
Well, no, this list is a secret society. Not all of these are cults.
Well, you said to join the forces of
I
evil.
said, yeah, okay,
this
but
list.
you didn't listen to what I said. You'd have to pick some of the organizations basically off of this list. So I'm going to pick out the ones that I think are evil.
Okay.
That you would have to join one of these societies and possibly more than one of these societies before you get accepted into the forces of evil. Because the forces of evil is plural. Forces.
Okay.
Not just force of evil, right? So the Bilderberg Group, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
The Thule Society.
The Tool Society?
Yeah.
Yes. Probably need to have a little splash of Order of Skull and Bones in there.
Yeah.
See, because on this list, they also list Shriners International. It's just a secret society, right? I don't think those guys are evil.
The KKK is on here. So.
You know what?
Yeah.
Stay away from that one. They got a shitty dental plan, right? We watched that movie where they talked about.
Yeah.
What was it called? Remember that movie we watched? I think it was called Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Where they had two detectives were.
That was
pretty
actually
good.
pretty good. Yeah.
And they actually talked about that. Well, we got benefits and stuff. Knights of Pythias.
I think that's just a.
I just wanted to say Pythias.
Okay. Debatable as to whether or not they're good or evil. Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. That is definitely an occult group.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to look more into like the Foresters and.
Well, that's the one we're going to talk about because this is a list that has a bunch of secret societies on here. Mm-hmm. And I started digging into it, and it's like, okay, this is something that it's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at things like the Illuminati and Freemasons, and the group that used to be the Knights Templar that changed into whatever it changed into. I can't remember. I don't want to say it's Rosicrucians. It's something. If you know what group allegedly is the remnants of the Knights of the Templar, there's more than one. Let us know.
Oh.
So, actually, I'm just trying to get pages to load because.
Okay. Well, the Foresters, which is a secret society, according to its own legends, the Foresters began in medieval times in the royal forests of England and admitted men of other professions as early as 1840. This looks, however, very likely a pietist attempt to claim parity with Freemasons. In any case, the suppression of many secret societies in England in the wake of the French Revolution means that such claims cannot easily be checked. There are still several varieties of Foresters today, but there were many more in the past. Their talent for schism amounted to almost genius. The Royal Order of Foresters was the first to be legally constituted in 1813. An intriguing part of their early rituals was initiation by combat with cudgels, which apparently was abandoned in about 1843. In 1832, a schism took place, and most of the members joined the newly formed Ancient Order of Foresters. In 1880, the subsidiary High Court of the Netherlands and Belgium was formed. Okay. The AOF also went to the U.S., but has since then nearly disappeared. In England and the Netherlands, it still exists. In the Netherlands, the AOF has 4 local courts and not more than 150 mostly elderly members. Besides this order, there is a small order in Rotterdam with members of Suriname origins. The largest order nowadays is the Independent Order of Foresters, which was formed after a schism from the AOF in 1879. It functions as a fraternal benefit insurance society in Canada, the UK, and the US, and it admits adults of both genders and has approximately 1.4 million members in 1994.
What do they actually do?
I don't know.
That's pretty secret.
I mean, are they all Subarus? Or are they all park rangers? With a name like Foresters, you're like, maybe they're just stewards of forests.
Yeah, we're not good at it. See, we will never be able to join the secret societies and join the forces of evil. So we don't really know. Like, hey, what if you wanted to join the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks, or of Elks in America?
Isn't that just an elk lodge?
Well, according to this, it was founded in 1868 in New York as a drinking club, but later broadened into a fraternal, charitable, and service organization. It's open to male citizens over 21, and they had 1.5 million elks in 1994. And basically, they say the animal for which the order took its name was chosen because the number of its attributes that it had, it was deemed typical, right? So the elk is a distinctive American animal. It lives in herds, and it's the largest of our native quadrupeds. It has quick and keen perception, gentle, even timorous, but strong and basically valiant in defense of its own. And so the benevolent and protective order of elks was basically, it's funny. I'm thinking back to when I would give, money to charities and things like that when I was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And I actually was an elk. You could sign up online. You know, it wasn't online back then. You could sign up on a piece of paper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And no, I'm sorry, it wasn't this one. It was the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, okay, so one of the things that they could do, and what they have done in the past, is they shipped vast quantities of cigarettes and tobacco to the fighting forces. Right? So pretty much what these guys did, you know, is they did charitable things, right? And they would supply things, and they would, you know, donate monies and things like that, like large sums of monies, where they would basically, like, due to their Elks National Foundation, which they set up in Miami in 1928. They donated like $100,000 into the fund, and then they would give it away to charitable things, charitable, educational, patriotic, and benevolent activities, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a good one. So if you're trying to join the forces of evil, this isn't going to work.
Yeah,
because they're nice. We got to find an evil one. You got to find a See, what's the difference between a secret society and a cult? Because, I mean, you can have cults that are good and you can have cults that are bad.
Organized religion.
Is it, though?
Yes, because a secret society may not have a true organized religion where you are not just indoctrinated, but there are levels that you have to achieve within the face of that particular audience or group. So a cult, you have to face those trials and tribulations and those measures in front of the cult or cult leader.
Yeah.
Whereas a secret society, there's not often a religious or spiritual component to the levels you have to reach within that society.
Well, we can join the Rosicrucians.
Okay.
Yeah. When I used to read a bunch of Rolling Stone magazines, always in the back of it was little ads, join the Rosicrucians, right? So they're supposed to be the most secret of the secret society so far, and they gained ancient wisdom that enabled them to create a society greatly in advance of their own contemporaries in the 15th century. Right? And since the 17th century, rumors have credited the Rosicrucians with accomplishing the transmutations of metals.
Yeah.
They also possess the meanings of prolonging life, having the knowledge to see and hear what is occurring in distant places, like remote viewing, right?
Yeah.
And enjoying the ability to detect secret and hidden objects. Like transmutation is kind of like turning, lead into gold, right? Mm-hmm. So all the cool stuff in the 15th century is what they could do.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to join, you're like, hey, join us. We can basically turn lead into gold. We can see great, all the cool stuff you'd want to do.
Yeah.
The only thing that's not listed here is like invisibility. Yeah. Okay. It's been alleged that the scientific apparatus discovered in the tomb of Christian Rosicrucius, who lived from 1378 to 1484. That's pretty old. I'm trying to read what it says.
I'm looking through every single one of these, trying to find an evil one for you. So
yeah, so far I haven't been.
I don't know
too successful.
Where you're at in this Rosicrucian thing. I have clicked on two different.
Well, they allegedly had like the Philosopher's Stone and stuff like that. They had all these ancient gizmos.
Yeah.
So when you think of like things like Merlin,
okay,
and some of the things that Merlin could do, it would almost be like the Rosicrucians, right?
But wasn't he a part of the? I don't know.
Well, who knows, right?
Yeah. But
they talk about like some of the esoteric teachings of the great masters and mystery schools. And if you were going to join, you had to swore to uphold the following precepts. You would not profess any creed but the goal of healing the sick without reward. Right? They would affect no particular style of clothing. In other words, you wouldn't wear something that would make it out to be that you are a Rosicrucian.
Oh.
So they would meet only once each year at the House of the Sainted Spirit. Each brother there would basically carefully choose his own successor. And the letters RC, right, would serve as their only seal and character. And the brotherhood would remain secret for 100 years.
Okay.
So, so pretty, you know what Rosicrucian means, right?
No.
Rose cross.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been going through some of these guys, and at least one of them has turned into an insurance and financial advice company.
Well, the Rosicrucians, I actually sent a self-addressed stamped envelope one time.
Yeah.
And I got brochures from those guys for years. But I was kind of young.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay no attention to it.
Well, the Modern Woodmen of America, which was yet another offshoot of that Foresters group that I mentioned, who also have pretty much evolved into like a financial and insurance type group. If you go to their website, it's just financial advice, news and media, and information security.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So
what I'm thinking is that if you really want to join a secret society, you probably can't do it on the internet. You probably have to get into the organization, and basically once you're trusted, then you can start to find the real nitty gritty. Much like, say, well, I don't want to say the Rosicrucians, but what are those guys called? The secret handshake. You know what I'm talking about. The Freemasons.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
okay.
Like, you'd have to actually join and get into the organization to move up and stuff like that. But honestly, man, yeah, I think the forces of evil would kind of change in today's society. I think it's a little bit different than the way it would have been in the past. And it's definitely not like Legion of Doom and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, didn't they have documentaries about weird secret societies in modern times?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times, you want to get people that have no direction or whatever, and you want to give them a purpose and give them a sense of following and, family or whatever, depending on how you want to look at it. But I think if you're going to have a secret society today that was going to become, or the leading force of evil, which, part of the forces of evil, it would have to be business or capitalism related, period.
Huh.
I mean, think about it. If you turn off communication, that causes an infinite number of problems.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you stop the flow of information, then things don't get transmitted back and forth. So, I mean, then you're looking at different things like if you cause infrastructure collapse or things like that, by turning the power off, or not even doing anything real, like necessarily physically detrimental, like making the prices of things so incredibly expensive that nobody can afford it. Then you cause problems with the people. Cut the power, all of that stuff. So I think if you were going to be a forces of evil, you would probably have to be somebody like either the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, or somebody like that, to be put in a position of power basically caused by influence and wealth that can basically take away the basics that everybody needs to survive, and everybody control them.
Yeah.
And it's inherently evil to turn off the power or to make, I don't know, diabetic pills like $300.
2,000
or insulin, you went from paying $80 a month, now you're going to pay $2,500. I mean,
$4,000 EpiPens.
Yeah, and so you run around. That guy was a real sleaze bag, but I mean, you run around and you do this sort of thing, and you can basically control society.
True.
You don't even have to fire. There's no weapons need to be fired. It's all electronic. It's all commerce. It's all capitalism. It's all of that stuff.
I think this website, though, is a little bit dated because as I start to throw some of these...
Oh, it's definitely dated.
Yeah, it's like I've already come across 3 where it's like, as of 1995. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, if you go to occult-world.com, you can look up the secret societies.
Yeah.
Which are basically like brochure level. Helicopter view looks at them. And I think really if you want to join us as a secret society and maybe work your way into the forces of evil, it's going to be...
it's going to be through Reddit.
Maybe. Yeah, you never know. There's people that don't even know what Reddit is. So
it'll be on the dark web like everything else. So
maybe. Or you never know. You might just meet somebody, right? But I mean,
in front of a Home Depot.
You need to find the ones that have basically the most... What? No. That's whatever. So you think that's clever. Nobody does. Mm-hmm. So you need to join the order of, let me pick one. Moose.
Mm-hmm.
Get you a Moose Lodge.
Nope.
Yep. Or you can be, what is the Order of the Owls? See, we looked up some of these because we were trying to go find, remember that there was a society that we were trying to find that was in, was it in Alabama?
No, it was in Arkansas.
Arkansas, there you go.
And it was kind of like the forestry groups that are on this list.
Well, they were kind of like that, but they were more sort of like the Oddfellows without storing dead bodies and stuff. And they were supposed to be like goofballs.
Oh, yeah.
And they had some really sort of horrific looking stuff, but we couldn't find it. You know?
And it had like 2 cats on each side of the stone of some sort. I'm trying to figure it out.
See, I couldn't find it either, so I was trying to scribble some stuff down for the podcast. I couldn't find it as well. I could not remember, you know, and I couldn't remember exactly where we were because we were going to see the lights. And we were in Arkansas. And we also wound up going to...
It was near the
Monster Mart.
It was near the Gurdon Light.
Yeah, the Gurdon Lights.
Yeah.
And we wound up not really finding either. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. Because we were going to put that... and talk about that in the podcast.
But this owl group is kind of... It gets a little weird because they were a South Bend, Indiana group where this animal lodge, and animals in air quotes, was born. John W. Talbot and a small group of his associates in November 1904 formed this fraternal group. When it was founded, the order sought to assist its members in business and employment, provide help to the widows and orphans of the deceased members, and to enjoy mutual fellowship with one another. Now, this order has no relationship with the one-time Masonically related group, the Independent Order of Owls, that was organized in St. Louis, Missouri in 1890. The OOO has 4 degrees, plus the presence of a ritual, passwords, and fraternal grips. So they have a fraternal handshake. The ritual, as in most fraternal orders, is intended to be secret. The publications contend that it is a ritual that has no religious elements. An older edition of the ritual states, "We advocate no creed. We know there are so many gods, so many creeds, so many paths that wind and wind. We believe that the art of being kind is all this world needs." Now, originally, membership was only open to white males, but soon after the founding, also women were allowed in separate local lodges called nests. Present day, there are nests that are open for men and women. So in the early 1920s, this organization had over 600,000 members and 2,100 nests. So, yeah, as of like the late 70s, the membership roster dropped all the way down to about 40,000 members. In the late 90s, there were a little over 5,000 members. There's a little anecdote at the end of the description for the Order of the Owls. The founder of the order, John W. Talbot, was sentenced to 5 years at Leavenworth in 1921 as a result of a morals charge involving a nurse at an owl's hospital. So,
yeah,
that's kind of creepy. So,
yeah, but I mean, it's not like what I wanted to hear. And of course, you know, they probably all these listings here of these, you know, things like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and all the stuff that you're reading is like that you would want to read off these little blurbs. This is like all their like good feeling brochure stuff. Come on in, we're great. Yeah. You know, I want the dirt, but I don't want to join any of these because they probably want like money.
Yeah.
Like, hey, come on in and pay some dues. And it's like, all right. So anyway, we just kind of wanted to throw that in there, a little bit about secret societies. And you can kind of check them out and see. But for the most part, I don't know. You know, it's funny. If you look at it in a weird sort of like side-eyed kind of view, there's a lot of people that are in societies. They're not really secret, though. Are you a member of the Twitter Society? Yeah, who knows? Anyway, I think we're about done.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was kind of suggested to take a look at this page by our buddy Dave, who's one of our patrons. He was like, hey, check this out. And it is pretty neat. His website has a ton of stuff. So, you could even join if you want.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool.
You know, it took this entire time to pull up the monument. It doesn't even have the Ho-Ho Monument.
That's what it was. Where are the ho-hos? Ho-hos, yeah. Wasn't even there anymore. Anyway,
yeah.
I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because we're doing a little bit of rambling, talking about some different stuff. And I think our next podcast episode is probably going to be a little bit different, but, you know, it's all good. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
The International Concatenated Order of the Ho-Ho, a fraternal society of lumbermen.
Yeah, it probably means something different.
Yeah.
You know, back then.
Who knows?
All right, anyway. So anyway, there you go. You've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This was episode 240. A little bit of weird stuff in the news that we want to talk about. You know, some of the Expedition Bigfoot stuff, a little bit of secret societies.
Yep.
And evidently from that list, if you want to join the forces of evil, you probably can't do it.
And that list is limited too.
There's like 3 on there that, you know.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Be sure to join our Facebook group or give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram. We are trying to make those 2 accounts grow. We post very regularly. Also, we have new stickers in the Etsy shop, so there's links in the show notes for that. We'll be releasing, or at least announcing, some more stuff soon as we build up to the Western North Carolina Bigfoot Festival happening in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it. Kind of boring. This episode, this stuff's starting to trickle back in again. Well, I'm starting to see it in the news, right? I'm starting to see stuff about, you know, I don't know, secret weapons and warfare and things are afoot.
Yeah. So,
and gas prices are crazy high.
So if you'd like to talk to us about something
Kentucky Fried Chicken was like $60.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, wow.
So if you'd like to share something spooky or not horrifying as far as like current news horrifying, give us an email, contact@creepgeeks.com, or check us out on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. That's it.
Yep.
So we'll see you next time. So see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.